You are not going to believe what my wife and I found in the desert of Arizona. Check this out. We found 70 acres of blooming wildflowers. Now, this is really unusual because obviously here we are in a desert. You would not expect something like this, but there is an agriculture industry here in Arizona. But anyhow, we decided to head down to this sunflower field and take advantage of the situation. Now, this place can be a little bit popular with other photographers, and we did get here around sunset. I put up the drone and started capturing some stock footage, which I already put up for sale, and then I was able to get the camera from my wife and then start taking some photos. Now, the problem I have with this is that we were at a point where the sun had just set and I was shooting towards the bright evening sky, so I had a really high dynamic range, and I also wanted to capture a panorama. So what I did is I did an HDR panorama, a stacked panorama. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of how I developed that, but then we're going to address a pretty big issue with this photo. So let's take a look. So over here in Lightroom, I have all the photos. Now there were 5 different images taken for each one of, for each cell, so to speak, each part of the panorama. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of them, right mouse click, and then I'm going to do a photo merge, and I'm going to select an HDR panorama. Now this process is going to take a few minutes. So when you do an HDR panorama, or when you do any panorama, you want to make sure you have full control of the camera. You need the camera set to manual mode, but you also need to set the focus to manual and the color temperature, because it's going to vary throughout the pictures, and the different sections of your panorama are going to have a different color to them. Every single one of these needs to be set. Now when it comes to your color temperature, it really doesn't matter which color you set it to, because we're shooting in RAW and we can correct that in post-processing if we need to. All right, let's take a look at some of our options here. So the initial merge is completed. I have 3 different choices I can use now. I can go with spherical, cylindrical, or perspective. When you render as spherical, it's going to project as if you're in the inside of a sphere. So it's going to be curved, sort of curved going top, bottom, left, and right. When you look at a cylindrical, it's kind of like you're looking around, and that's one of the modes that I like to develop in. And then we have perspective. It's going to try to render it flat. So which one works best for you? We need to look at any distortions that were created in the image. Now this one isn't too bad. We're going to go ahead and keep it with cylindrical. So we're going to go ahead and click merge. So the merge is finished. Let's take a look and see what we've got. Now a couple of things I'm worried about here is that obviously we have a very dark foreground. Now I can use Lightroom or I can use Photoshop to do the corrections here. So let's go ahead. We're actually going to try and do this in Photoshop because I want to address something that's really catching my eye with this photograph that I just can't do in Lightroom. So I'm going to right click the photo and I'm going to edit in Photoshop. Whatever I do in Photoshop, I want to make sure it's non-destructive. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new duplicate layer of this image. And we're only going to work with the duplicate layer, preserving the original. Now, first thing I want to talk about here is the foreground. Very dark. So I'm going to press Control M. That's going to bring up my curves. And then I'm going to go down here to this little pointer icon. And I'm going to select some areas down here in the leaves. And I'm going to hold down my mouse button and move the mouse up. And it's going to select just those colors, and it's going to try to increase those colors, their brightness just a tad. Let's do a little bit here on the sunflowers as well. There we go. And we'll do a little more here on the leaves, just to get them to brighten up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, one thing I'm really concerned about here is the sky. The sky is very blah. It's really not standing out. It's really not making this image pop. It's a giant blank area is essentially what it is. So let's turn on sky replacement. Now, because of the size of this image, it is going to take it just a few minutes to kind of figure out where the sky is and where the ground is. And you guys can see that I've got one of my skies already up there. Now, originally, this was over the ocean. But the thing I had to think about here is that when I took this photo, I was shooting directly into the evening sky. So pretty much the ground was already getting in the shadow. I needed to have a very bright sky as my background. Also, this is a panorama. So when I go through the different skies that I've uploaded, I need to make sure I'm choosing skies that are panoramas as well so they fit. But the other thing is, will the colors work? Like for example, when I click here. Although this is a really neat sky, we have to ask the question, does it fit the image? And I mean, we can adjust the ground color a little bit to make it fit, but we still have to make sure whatever we choose actually works. And here we'll try another one. Now really again, since I was shooting straight towards where the sun had set, I want to make sure that there is a sun in that image. And here's a neat one we could possibly use, except right here, this dark cloud is kind of not working for me. So let's try out this background. Let's see what happens. Well, that's kind of neat. It's nice and bright. But again, really we want to make something that is going to look somewhat natural when you do sky replacement. And that one's not working out for me either. Let's try a little bit of a darker sky. And you can see we really can play around with our different backgrounds. Oh, that definitely is not going to work. Look what it did to the mountains. We got to make that horizon work. So I'm going to go back to something a little brighter. Let's try this one. Now, another thing is some of these background photos I'm using do have mountains of their own. We have to make sure those do not interfere. Well, it's looking like this one is probably going to be our best choice for today. So let's make a few adjustments here. I'm going to get rid of that faded edge along the sky, kind of make it more robust, more vibrant colors along the horizon. And let's see if we can improve with how those mountains look. I need to darken up those mountains a tad. There we go. That put them more into a shadow effect by increasing the foreground lighting. All right, now I'm just going to brighten up the sky, see if that helps us any here. Oh, way too much. Let's take it down. All right, and then I'm going to shift the edge just a tad. And again, I just wanted to get the mountains to kind of appear more natural. All right, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And we have a much more dramatic sky. Take a look at this. I'm going to remove the new sky. This is the original. And this is with the replaced sky. Again, your goal here when you're going to use this technique is to try and make things look natural. If I had sunlight coming in to the side, I had shadows coming off to the side, I can't use a sunset that's directly in front of the camera because the shadows obviously were not going to line up. So that's something to take into consideration. This image I feel is much more ready to be sold. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these kind of videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and of course leave me a comment about what you thought about this process. Take care, and I'll see you next time.